coming up to join the light half of this, of the dark half of springtime to the light half of springtime. And here we have the 3 solid, 3 broken coming together right at the middle of the fixed signs again. And here's again the summer, the trigram for the first light half of summer, and the dark half of summer. And when they come together in the middle of the fixed signs, the 3 solid and 3 broken lines come beside each other again. So you have the solstices, you have 3 solid, 3 solid together. At the equinoxes, they balance, but not 4 ways. So this is the only place at the middle of the fixed signs. So the energy gets condensed into the fixed signs. It's generated at the equinoxes through the cardinal signs. The willpower is generated. It's concentrated in the fixed signs, and then it's adapted or distributed through the mutable signs, are distributed. So this concentration comes right at these concentration points. Dane Ridger would call them the points of avataric descent. So the equinoxes were your spiritual perception of ascending to the spiritual insights, and he saw it as the middle of the fixed signs being the descent into life, of the anchoring of the spirit into life. And those are the 4 Wiccan holidays. So again, we're still just going through to see the fall, and then in the fall, the 2 trigrams, the 2 groups of trigrams meet, and they meet, the 3 solid and 3 broken meet at this 15-degree points again. Okay, so this is basically what we have. We have the seasons, really the zodiac, which we'll see in another minute. But I want to just notice that these neutral points, these points balance each other at each of the middle of the fixed signs. Simple, but it has quite a profound implication for when we try and fit this to the zodiac. So this would be another drawing. We're just showing the same thing, the 4 on it. When we put this to the zodiac, you do see them at the middle. There's some transformation or some special union going on in the middle of the fixed signs. Something's happening here. A mixture of the 2, a changing of the 2 directions. The light and the dark are joining in a special way, anchoring that season. It's the balance between the extremes and the balance of the equinoxes and the extremes of the solstices. These are the midpoints, and it integrates, it anchors that season. Okay, now this is how you would normally see the I Ching going around the zodiac. I put the trigrams again in the middle because normally you wouldn't even see it. You just see these solid and broken lines going around saying, what's this? Bunch of lines. But when you look down at this dial and you look at it more closely, you'll see where it is the first sun, the solid, broken, and the broken up on the top section here. You'll see the first line is solid until the middle is solid. It's actually solid the whole half of the circle. The second line, darkness is greater, shows a broken line, each broken, all the way up until the spring equinox. The third line will be broken until the middle of the fixed sign. Then it will be solid until the spring equinox. And then the 4th line goes 4 by 4. Second line, and the 5th line goes 2 by 2. The 3rd line goes every alternate one, broken, solid. So it's kind of like, the symbolism would be kind of like at the equator you have day, night, day, night, day, night. At the North Pole you have 6 months of day, 6 months of light. So it's like these are like if you look at the lines at this distance, it's kind of like looking at the latitude lines coming, the declination lines coming north or south around the globe. But in any case, I want to just look at when we're looking at around the circle. These are all positions. In the degrees going through each line is a degree of the zodiac, basically. And the lines start in the cardinal signs, they move from the bottom up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, it's 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and it keeps 30, and then it keeps counting up to 48. And then, so the cardinal signs all count from the bottom up. The Mutable signs are that section counts from the top down. The direction of degrees going through lines goes the other, comes down from the top. But since each section, if you count all the lines, which means the lower trigram and the upper trigram, there's 48 lines in one section and 45 degrees. There's 3 extra lines. Okay? But since the 3 solid lines and 3 broken lines neutralize each other where the trigrams meet, the outer trigrams meet, that's 6 lines. That's 3 lines on each side. That means if those lines are neutral, there's a line for a degree. There's 45 lines, 45 degrees with this neutral line, with this special phenomena going on in the middle of the fixed sign. And again, in the middle of Taurus, the middle of Leo, they come together like wherever the trigrams change. There's a change of season or a change of the centering of a season. It's a lot. I don't expect you. I just want to explain. The first time you see it, just know that it's connected and there's a natural connection to this, and it just fits in a degree for a line and it becomes much easier to memorize. This is how the I Ching has been passed along. This has been the teaching for 5,000 years. This drawing has been passed on as a special teaching. It became a divination. Just to ask a question, throw coins and get an answer. But divination was the source of horary astrology. Really, originally was the astrology circle, and you get the meanings out of the sequence of how they fit together and the light and the darkness. So the sequential relationship to them was very important. But in the mathematical generations from 1200 BC on, it became more mathematically reduced and related to opposites, but they stopped working so much with the sequence, and they let go of the astrology got marginalized or left behind. It was there, but not that. The new tradition became the predominant one, and anyone studying the old was persecuted or killed or whatever. It's just part of the history of China. But the teachings did survive through the martial art trainings and through the natural flow of the cycle. They maintained through that. But this was the original drawing that was passed on. It was an oral teaching without. They were taught by words and by memorizing and talking about it and learning these relationships. It was not written out. This was the only thing that was written out. And even in the earlier days, a smaller version of it. But this is the same thing with you just put the zodiac right around it. It fits exactly, just in the divisions we made. There's the greatest darkness, there's the solid broken, you can see the first 3 lines for the first sun, second sun, the trigrams. It fits. It's exactly the zodiac. The only difference was the 384 lines to 360 lines, but there's 25 lines that neutralize each other, and it fits exactly. Okay, this is another drawing. This is an old poster I did back in the 70s when it was too expensive to print color. And I was using these are more, I used them as the I Ching symbols, but they were more involving wave motion, just to distinguish between the sidereal zodiac and the tropical. This is tropical zodiac stuff. But the signs of the zodiac are written around the edge, so you can see what sign it is. Don't worry about the symbols in the middle. Some of my old drawings just have it like that. I haven't replaced them all. So you have the I Ching drawings. Each of the I Ching hexagrams are put around the circle in the sections that they're in. But there's also a star shape, which is a Kabbalistic drawing paralleling the I Ching for each of these sections. So there's a link between the I Ching and the Kabbalah and these drawings, these shapes for each section of the zodiac. And if you're going to look at it loosely, you see at the greatest darkness, 6 broken lines, you have a 6-pointed star. If you look at the opposite side, you see the 6 solid lines and you have this hexagon with no points on the star. So that's, again, the yin and yang polarity in graphic shapes. And in the center is it's kind of like the Coptic cross. You have the cross with 3 points on it, cross with 3 points on it, cross it. And really, if you studied magic at all, or there was a thing called, Crowley did it, a lot of the magical groups have this, they talk about the universal, instead of being a 6-pointed star, they really it's a 6-pointed star, but they join the middle points, so it goes boom, 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 boom. So it's called the unicursal drawing, but it's still a 6-point. The same drawing is just drawing the points in differently. But this makes the zodiac. This is symbolism inside. There's a lot of it. So paralleling that just on the outside, I showed the 6-pointed star. That's there. Okay, and in outside of the hexagrams, there's a degree. So like here, if we just look at winter, the top left quadrant, you see the first section of the triangles. Imagine these hexagrams, their totals. Imagine this falling over to the left or counterclockwise, falling counterclockwise. The tops moving counterclockwise. Okay. Then, and you imagine the bottom ones, the tops moving clockwise. The tops are falling towards each other. Let's see, how can I do this? Make sure they're standing up and they're just falling towards each other. And this drawing here shows the lines in the degrees of the zodiac, as the degrees of the zodiac on this outer circle. And they go to 45 degrees, and the other 3 lines go to the next, where each one overlaps the other, so they go into the next 3 degrees, but they neutralize each other. So they kind of share their degrees. There's sort of special message in that period. People born in that period, where the sun's in that period, they kind of a bit of the 2 hexagrams. So, but the lines will move, and the last hexagrams here, they move one, like it's 12 degrees to 13, 13 to 14, 14 to 15. So it moves the first 3 lines of the trigram. You don't count the degrees through the solid broken, but then they start counting from the bottom down, top down. So it'd be the solid broken, so it'll be 16, 17, 18, and then it goes 18 to 24. They count down from there. So the cardinal signs, the degrees move through the lines of the hexagrams from the bottom to the top, and from the middle of the fixed signs to the end of the mutable signs, they count from the top to the bottom. In the traditional I Ching, the numbers and the association, they always count from the bottom up in working with the I Ching. So that was the tradition. This is applying it in this cycle, and it has a slight differentiation from it. Okay, and I call this the zodiac turtle or tortoise. You have the head being Aries, the tail being over in Libra, the feet are the fixed signs, and it carries the universe on its back. It carries the mysteries of the universe in its shell on its back.